Hey, it's Saleem here, coming at you from my balcony here in Medellin, Colombia. And what I want to talk to you about today is how to be a man. Now, this is a question that I've really struggled with in the past because I used to think that being a man means establishing dominance over others, being big and strong, having the ability to get any girl that you want, or all these standard stereotypes of what current narrative actually tells us about it, right? And then also the current narrative has something about toxic masculinity and what it actually means to be alpha male, and all of these things can actually lead down a path of confusion where we begin to act out in certain ways because we think that's what it means to be a man, all right? But today my definition is very different, all right? I've aligned my definition of what it means to be a man with the definition of what the ancient Greek and Roman philosophers have been telling us for millennia, all right? And that is, to be a man is to live with virtue, all right, or to live with a high moral standard, to have a bunch of principles through which you actually govern your thoughts and your behaviors, all right? Now, the ancient Greeks and Romans actually talked about 4 cardinal virtues in particular that all of us must strive to embody if we want to enter our personal power and purpose as men, all right? Is these exact 4 virtues that I strive to embody within my own life, and if you do so as well, I can guarantee that you will work to becoming a more grounded and powerful version of yourself, all right? And just as a side note, the word virtue actually finds its roots in the Latin word virtus, which actually literally translates to manliness, all right? And this is something that's very interesting because the etymology of a word actually reveals the truth behind it. So to be a man is to live with virtue. So the first cardinal virtue that the ancient Roman and Greek philosophers tell us is prudence, all right? Now, prudence can be defined as practical wisdom. So when we look at the word philosopher, it comes from the Greek root philosophos, which literally means lover of wisdom, all right? But these ancient Greek and Roman philosophers were not just in love with acquiring wisdom for the hell of acquiring wisdom so that they could look smart in front of all of their friends, but they were doing so because they were acquiring the wisdom that was practical, that could actually be used to improve the quality of their own lives and the lives of others around them, all right? Whether we look at Aristotle, who served as the mentor to Alexander the Great, who ended up conquering most of the known world before he was 30, whether we look at Marcus Aurelius, who served as the emperor to the vast Roman Empire, and we look at Seneca, he was a statesman, a playwright, a very successful investor, advisor to the Emperor Nero. All of these guys, all of these great philosophers that we've been talking about till today were active members of society, all right? They were not acquiring knowledge for the hell of it. They were acquiring practical knowledge that could actually improve the quality of their own lives and improve the quality of lives of others who were keen enough to actually learn about it, all right? Now, this is very contrary to what how philosophy is taught through the modern education system, where we're just taught about all these different things to learn with no practical application of them. And an analogy that Brian Johnson I've heard him use, he says that modern philosophers, they're like librarians of the mind, right? They're just collecting knowledge. They might have some wise words to say, but at the end of the day, they're not actually living, they're not improving the quality of their lives through that knowledge. But these ancient philosophers, they were warriors of the mind, right? They were actually using that knowledge in their everyday lives, and they were active members of society. So how can we actually develop prudence? How can we gain wisdom? And how can we actually move towards using this virtue and applying it in our lives? So Seneca actually tells us that the ultimate wisdom that we as men can embody is clarity on our path and purpose, all right? He actually uses the term euthymia, which can be translated as a state of inner flourishing. So when we are clear on our path, when we believe in ourselves, when we trust that we are on the right path, when we are not diverted by the myriad of footpaths that are leading in different directions, that's when we can achieve a state of inner flourishing, when we are clear on our path, when we are clear on our purpose, all right? So if you are currently unclear on how you should go about things, what your path is in life, what your purpose is in life, then I highly recommend you ask yourself the following 3 questions, all right? I got these questions from Vishen Lakhiani, who is the author of the book Code of the Extraordinary Mind. I highly recommend you check it out. But these 3 questions will reveal a lot in terms of what you actually want out of life, all right? And the first question is, what experiences do I want to have in life, all right? Because it's important for you to understand that at the end of the day, when we're on our deathbeds, when we're lying there and we're reflecting back on our lives, we're not thinking about the stuff that we acquired, we're not thinking about the house that we lived in, we're not thinking about the cars that we drove, all right? We're thinking about the experiences that we had with the people that we loved and the people that we impacted, all right? So at the end of the day, it's just a matter of experiences, and you have to just journal out your answers. Just let it flow, whatever comes to mind. What experiences do you want to have in life? Write them down, let it flow, and that is the first question that you must ask yourself. Journal on it, all right? Now, the second question you must ask yourself is, how do I have to grow in order to have those experiences? Because the only thing that's standing between you and those experiences right now is an obstacle, or many obstacles for that matter, and the way that those obstacles can be overcome is by developing the skills that will allow you to overcome them, all right? So that is the second question. How do I have to grow? What skills do I have to acquire to actually have those experiences in my life? Again, as you ask yourself this question, just let your answers flow, all right? Don't think too much, just let it flow. Whatever comes to mind, write it down, and you can reflect on that afterwards, all right? And finally, the third question you must ask yourself is, how do I want to contribute, all right? Because at the end of the day, I sincerely believe that within each of us, there's an inner urge to experience life to the fullest and to actually share that fullness with others and everyone that we come into contact with. And the only way to do that is to live lives of service. So you have to ask yourself how you want to use your greatest gifts in greatest service to the world, because at the end of the day, if you're not contributing to the personal growth, to the growth of others as well, and you're only focused on yourself, you will not live a truly fulfilled life, all right? So ask yourself these three questions, and that will help you gain the prudence, gain the wisdom on what you should be doing moving forward, all right? And that brings us to the second cardinal virtue that the ancient Greek and Roman philosophers tell us, and that is justice, all right? Now, not justice in the sense of, not in the legal sense of whether it's against the law or not, but justice in the sense of living in integrity with our highest ideals, all right? When we live with integrity, we make our decisions based on who we want to become, based on our goals, based on our values, all right? When we live without integrity, we make our decisions based on how we feel in a particular moment, all right? We go off the spur of the moment and subconscious programming and external factors, all right? So to live with integrity is to live in accordance with your highest values and not at the effect of external circumstances, all right? So Aristotle actually told us that the highest human good is eudaimonia, all right? And it can be translated as a state of inner flourishing, all right? When you are living with eudaimonia, you're basically on good terms with your inner daimon. So these ancient philosophers used to visualize the inner daimon as your highest self, right? As your soul, as your conscience that is always there taking notes on everything that you do. And when you are on good terms with your inner daimon, you basically have a good relationship with yourself, and that is very important, because at the end of the day, what you think of yourself when you're by yourself is what will determine your self-esteem, all right? It will determine how you feel about yourself, it will determine how you feel about your life, and that is the most important thing that really matters at the end of the day, what you think of yourself when you're by yourself. So how can we actually live with integrity? How can we actually live with justice? And how can we develop the aspect of our personality to the point where we are on good terms with our inner daimon? Well, there's only one way to do so, all right? Make commitments and keep them, all right? Keep promises to yourself. Keep promises to yourself, yes, but to others as well. Never say you're going to do something that you don't intend on doing, and don't say that you're going to do something when you won't, all right? Keep your commitments, keep your word, and stick in alignment with that, and that will help you build your integrity muscles, build your justice muscles to the point where you actually have a good relationship with yourself, because you trust yourself and you keep promises to yourself, okay? That brings us to the third cardinal virtue, and that is temperance, all right? Now, temperance can be looked at as self-mastery, all right? So there are actually two aspects to self-mastery, and they are self-discipline and self-awareness, all right? So self-discipline can be defined as the ability to do what needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. You might have these external factors, whether it's pressure on whether you should make this video when there are people sitting right here, on whether you feel like it or not. All of these external factors exist, but the self-disciplined man takes action despite these external factors, because he has these internal values and an inner compass that is guiding him to do what needs to be done regardless of whether he feels like it or not. All right, and self-awareness is basically when we get a perspective on our thoughts and our emotions. All right, we get a distance from them so that we can look at them objectively and get to the root of the intentions behind our desires and our wants, rather than being at the effect of them. All right, and this is what self-mastery basically comes down to, where you are in control and you can get yourself to do the things that need to be done, and you are not at the effect of your thoughts, you are not at the effect of your emotions. You have gained distance from them and you are basically in charge of your own self. So how can we build self-mastery? Well, there are two aspects to it. Like I said, if you want to build self-discipline, there's a couple of things you can do. All right, for example, you can take cold showers. You can make it a challenge to approach every single attractive woman that you see on the street. You can basically do the hard things. All right, do the hard things, and once you can get yourself to do the hard things to the point where it becomes harder not to do them. For me, for example, it's gone to the point where it's harder for me not to take a cold shower than to take a cold shower, and that is like building your self-discipline muscles right there. All right, by doing the hard things. And yeah, just do the hard things, and then you can basically build the muscle of self-discipline, and then you can apply that muscle and use it and exert it in other areas of your life as well. All right, and the way to develop self-awareness is, this is what I've been doing at least, is a mindfulness practice. All right, now people get confused about this stuff, but basically just what I do is sit on a chair, close my eyes, set a timer for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. For you, if you're just starting out, set it for 5 minutes, and just close your eyes, take deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth, and seek to observe your thoughts. All right, you don't want to basically try to get zenned out or anything like that. Sure, if that happens, that's great, but just seek to observe your thoughts. All right, and this will allow you to get perspective on them so that you can disassociate your identity from them and begin to realize which thoughts are serving you and which ones are not. All right, an analogy that I really like is that thoughts are like clouds in the sky, but you are the sky. You are ever present, but the thoughts are coming and going. So you can learn to identify with the ever presence, the stillness that is always there, and disassociate from the thoughts that are coming and going, and begin to only entertain the thoughts that are serving you rather than hindering you. Okay, and that brings us to the fourth cardinal virtue, and that is courage. Now, courage comes from the root word cor, Latin root word cor, which literally means heart. And just like the heart is the organ that vitalizes all the other organs, courage is the virtue that vitalizes all the other virtues. All right, now it's important to understand that fear is a common aspect of the human experience. We all go through it, but courage is the ability to take action in spite of it. All right, now the first thing to understand about fear is that the energy that we associate with fear is actually not a fear-inducing energy. All right, really, it is a neutral energy, and what determines whether it's interpreted as fear or excitement is the story that we tell ourselves about it. All right, so the first step to overcoming fear is to stop looking at it as something to be avoided, stop looking at it as something that is a threat to your well-being, and start looking at it as a bridge towards your unlimited potential. Start looking at it as a door that opens the path towards becoming who you were meant to be. All right, that's the first step of overcoming fear. And you have to understand that in order to experience growth in our lives, we have to leave our comfort zone. By its very definition, when we leave our comfort zone, we feel discomfort, aka fear. So if you start looking at fear as a bridge towards becoming who you were meant to be, as a doorway that opens towards your potential, then you can start actually seeking it out. You start using it as a compass, that tells you what you need to do rather than tells you what you need to avoid. All right, so yeah, man, like courage is I mean, Aristotle defined it as the golden mean. Like, courage is right in the middle, and it's what's most important, and it fuels your ability to actually live through all the other virtues as well. All right, so The ancient Greco-Roman philosophers told us that to be a man is to be clear on your path, to have the courage to walk it, to be engaged in the process of never-ending improvement, to live with your lips pressed against your fears, and to embody these virtues in our lives. Okay? And that's what it means to be a man, based on what these philosophers, these immortal people who we've been talking about thousands of years after their death, tell us on how to be a man. So if you learned something new from this video, make sure to click the subscribe button, because I release new videos just like this every single week. Secondly, if you're serious about entering your personal power and purpose as a man, then I highly recommend you check out my free case study at tripleyourt.com, or you can click the link in the description as well, because it goes over how to naturally triple your testosterone levels and finally have the energy and drive and motivation to live the life that you're capable of living. All right, click the link in the description and I'll go over these 3 secrets on how you can achieve these results. And thirdly, leave a comment below and tell me a number 1 habit that if you stop doing would drastically improve the quality of your life. Leave a comment below and tell me right now, and I'll help you out any way that I can. With all that being said, this has been Saleem, and I'll see you soon.